Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we're going to be talking about an event that needs to happen for the used car market to go through its next pain point to where values will drop at a drastic rate. Before getting this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And if you see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post this content every single day. Let's get into it. Before we really dive into the video, I do need to mention this is in regards to the used car market. This video is not discussing the new car market whatsoever, and this is an important distinction to make because although the used car market and new car market sometimes will mirror each other, that is not happening right now. I am going to be making a video talking about how different these two markets are right now, but all you need to know is they're completely different, and everything that I'm talking about in today's video only applies to the used car market. So what is this event that needs to happen for the used car market to go through its next pain point? Well, it is the fact that Carvana needs to either file for bankruptcy or they need to go out of business. Either way, they need to do something that makes it so they have to liquidate their inventory because it is actually kind of propping up the car market right now. The first reason this is happening is because Carvana has so much inventory. They have like a couple 100,000 cars, and that means that they have like a couple 100,000 cars that are posted for sale at a certain price. And we all know that Carvana overpaid for almost all of these cars, and so their asking price is too much. And so this is giving dealers and other car buying services a false sense of security when it comes to pricing, and they feel like, oh, well, if Carvana is charging that much, then I can also charge that much, or maybe I can slightly undercut them. And so because Carvana has so many cars that are priced at a certain amount, it is basically making it so the rest of the market is going to keep up their retail prices in that range, even though those retail prices do not reflect the current wholesale prices we have in the used car market. And so that is part of the reason why everything's kind of being propped up. Now, the next reason is because everyone is waiting for something to happen to Carvana. They are constantly in the news at this point because of how much money they're losing and how many cars they're not selling anymore. And so you have dealers, you have people that buy cars at auction, you have wholesalers, like everyone is just waiting to see what happens because everyone knows that the second that Carvana says they're filing bankruptcy or they're going out of business and they're liquidating their inventory, it is going to flood the used car market with a bunch of different cars, and it is ultimately going to bring values down a massive amount. And so that's why, again, this whole situation has to happen for these values to come down, because right now everyone's just keeping everything propped up while they're waiting. Now, the next big part of the situation is the fact that Carvana bought Odessa, the auto auction, and after they bought Odessa, it literally lit the whole used car market on fire because dealerships absolutely hate Carvana. They do not want Carvana to exist. And so once they found that Carvana bought Odessa, they're like, yep, I'm not going to use that anymore. And it's causing a bunch of issues because, well, car dealers are auction's best customers because they are constantly sending cars to the auction. They're constantly buying cars from the auction. And so when Odessa has lost their best customer, it's not a good situation. And so with this dealership boycott, again, it's actually keeping prices up because cars that should be going through the auction are not going through the auction. And yes, obviously dealers are using other auctions at this point, but you have a lot of cars that just simply aren't selling because, you know, one of the biggest places to sell them is not being used. So now let's say that this whole situation, you know, completely unfolds. Carvana, again, either files for bankruptcy or goes out of business and they liquidate their inventory. And then let's say that Odessa then goes to new ownership that is not Carvana or some other online retailer that dealers hate, and dealers start using that auction again. Well, this is what's going to happen. First off, you are going to see a dramatic decrease in wholesale values with most cars because you're going to have, again, a couple 100,000 cars just flood the market, and they're going to be sold for cheap because when you have a company that is going under, they're just going to want to get rid of the inventory as soon as possible so they can get as much cash as possible. And so you're going to see just like, boom, tidal wave, values are going to go down, and it's going to be really fast. Like we're talking a matter of days, weeks at most. And then once the dust settles, then you're going to see dealers start to use Odessa again. Now, the only thing that could put a little bit of a hamper on this is if Carvana somehow could keep a hold of Odessa. And in that case, then dealers are still going to continue to boycott Odessa, and then this is actually going to somewhat perpetuate the whole issue. Now, again, values will still drop because you'll still probably have a lot of liquidation with Carvana's inventory, but you're still going to have one of the largest auctions not being used by dealers that would normally use it because they don't want to do anything to support Carvana. Now, at this point in the video, you might be wondering how far these prices will fall once Carvana goes under. Now, based on how many cars they have in inventory and the fact that they sell about 2 million used cars per year, which is about 5% of the total used car market, means that values will surely drop by at least 5%, but because it'll most likely be an insane panic situation where you're going to see Carvana dump their inventory to liquidate it, and you're going to see dealers freak out and try to dump their inventory, we're probably going to see more than a 5% drop, probably 10, 15, maybe even a 20% drop in used car values. Now, again, wholesale values will drop by that amount right away, but retail values always lag behind wholesale values, so don't expect the retail values to just all of a sudden be slashed overnight. It will take some time, a matter of weeks and potentially months, but the values will surely come down once the dust settles. So how can you use information to help you out as a buyer? First off, unless Carvana is giving you an insane deal on a car that you're selling or giving you a stupid amount of money for a car you're going to trade into them, probably don't work with them at this point. And again, that excludes the whole title issue that they have where they can't seem to get titles for cars and get them to new owners, and why they are consistently losing their dealer's license in states because of that. And so, yeah, probably don't buy from them at this point. I don't think it's worth it. That's not financial advice or car buying advice. Gotta throw that out there. But when it comes to the general used car market, I've been saying this time and time again over the last couple months, it's probably not the best thing to buy from at this point. The new car market actually has some good stuff happening, but the used car market still has a lot more pain to go through before values will settle. And like I said earlier in this video, the Carvana situation is literally propping up the used car market because you have this fight between Carvana and traditional car dealerships, and it looks like traditional car dealerships are going to win out at this point because Carvana is losing a ton of money, whereas traditional car dealerships are not losing a ton of money. And so they're going to stay in business while Carvana is going to go under, and then they'll finally get their auction back and they'll be able to just go back to the status quo, I suppose. And so, yeah, I would wait. I seriously would wait when it comes to a used car. It just doesn't really make sense with everything that's happening. And so, you know, with everything that I'm seeing with all the people that I'm talking to, it looks like the used car market for sure has another 10 to 20% to fall, potentially even 30% to fall when it comes to wholesale values. And then, like I said, retail values will lag, but they'll eventually follow suit before we hit any sort of bottom. And then the used car market, once it hits that bottom, it will surely rebound, because then you'll have a situation where, like I said in several videos in the past, people will realize that cars are a lot cheaper than they were over the course of the pandemic, and well, maybe it's the time to buy. And then once people start buying, then values start going back up, supply and demand, right? That is pretty much going to sum things up for today's video. And if I get any further updates on what's happening with Carvana or with the used car market, then I'll give you guys an update video. But at this point, we're just pretty much at a standstill. We are just going to have to, I guess, hold our breath and wait to see what happens with Carvana. And there are obviously other events that are also putting some pressure on the used car market, but they haven't really fully happened yet. And so we just, again, have to wait for those too, like the whole repo situation, right? That has to continue to unfold for us to be able to truly see how much that is going to affect the used car market. And we still aren't seeing those flood cars as well from the hurricane on the East Coast. And so, like, there are all these events that we know are going to affect the market, but like nothing's crystallizing yet. And so until like we get some like hard evidence, it's like, yeah, it's kind of frustrating. It's just this waiting game and this kind of like back and forth. And, you know, every single time I go and get more information, talk to more people, it's like the story doesn't really change all that much. It does, you know, kind of go from one side to the other a little bit, but it's kind of like, okay, well, when's this going to happen, right? Like everyone's saying, okay, this is going to happen, but it's like when? And so I guess that, you know, at this point, your guess is as good as mine. But seriously, I just, like I've said over the course of several videos, I really wouldn't purchase a used car until all of this stuff really, like, until the stuff happens and until things settle down and the dust settles and everything. It's probably just not worth it, because you're going to be able to buy that same used car for a lot cheaper in the near, well, what we think is the near future, but who knows exactly how long. I mean, who knows, like Carvana could be up for another 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then we're just still waiting. And then once it finally happens, it happens. Anyways, I'll see you guys.